Facebook family. July 12th, 2023. Pretty soon we'll be saying 2024. Facebook family, elevate. I cannot believe it is this far into the year. This is episode 97. Episode 97. Very happy you guys join in. For those that will be watching it later on, I hope that you really enjoy it. Hi, Shar. Shar's over there ready to go. She got her, I call her Sasha Fierce hairdo, where all of it kind of just goes to one side and the other side's shaved off. She got her Sasha Fierce hairdo on. But here we are, episode 97. I'm going to go to the comments so I can see who's out there. Please post if you're out there because I cannot see. Hey, Tamika, it's good to see you. Today we're discussing ease versus hardship. And the title might not sound all that great. To me, it does because I know what we're talking about. But I hope you really enjoy this. Ease versus hardship, episode 97. So please type in where you're from so we can see you. I wanted to go through a couple things real quick. So ease versus hardship. What are the things we're going to be discussing today? We're going to be discussing a popular quote by Denzel Washington. His quote is, ease is a greater danger to progress than hardship. We're also going to be taking a poll of your beliefs. We're going to ask 4 quick questions. They're easy. We're going to look for, Tamika said the title sounds amazing. We're going to take a poll of your beliefs, 4 quick questions. And the third thing, we're going to discuss why it's so important to believe a certain way about life. The fifth thing we're going to do is ask another question. And that question is going to be, what is the difference between challenge and hardship? Another thing we'll discuss today is the solution and how to make that solution happy. How to make that solution happen. So that's what we're discussing today. It's ease versus hardship, episode 97. And what is Elevate? Well, what is Elevate? Elevate is a leadership company. Hey, Mr. Roundtree, good to see you. What is Elevate? Elevate is a leadership company. We teach how to lead, how to influence, how to coach, how to train. I like the private coaching sessions better, but it's all about people that want to learn how to lead. A lot of times a person is promoted to a position. They were a great individual worker and they did a great job and they got promoted to the next level. And they said, listen, you did such a great job individually. We're going to put you in charge of these 5 to 10 people. I see my parents on. Good to see you. We're going to get you in charge of these 5 or 10 people. And here you go. Bam. And then you're out there. You get a little pay raise, a bump. And next thing you know, you're the leader. And a lot of times there's not any, hey, Aunt Stephanie, it's good to see you. There's not any heavy training or anything. You're just there. And you're going to do naturally what you know to do. And what you know to do is great as an individual. But there's other skills you need. So who we really look for is that person that came in and then they got bumped up because they were individually good. And we want to get that person and we want to train them up. We want to develop them and we want them to be really hungry. If they're not hungry, we don't even do it. So, happy birthday, Shay. Happy birthday, Shay. Happy birthday, Shay.
She doesn't want to celebrate.
So anyway, that is what Elevate is all about. I wanted to, before we get deep into it, I wanted to, I was thinking about it. I was like, man, it's 7:04. It seems like this time runs by pretty fast. But I wanted to go into a couple things real quick. I really wanted to repeat this quote because this whole episode 97 is about this quote. It says, ease is a greater danger to progress than hardship. And if you Google this, you will see this was said by Denzel Washington, and it's a very powerful point. And I just couldn't. I've had this written down for a while, and I just couldn't. It just kept simmering. So I just wanted to share this as one of the episodes. But before we go deeper, I really wanted to ask some questions. And please get on and respond. And all it is true or false. I'm going to read a statement. You tell me if you believe it's true or you believe it's false. Okay. So it is very important because this whole episode, it really matters on how you believe. Right. So the first one is this. And Shar, You know, if you want to, you can get on there and say the same thing, true or false. So this first one is every human suffers and every life form suffers because life is hard, challenging, and risky. Every life form encounters obstacles in its attempt to grow and expand. True or false? Every human suffers and every life form suffers because life is hard, challenging, and risky. Every life form encounters obstacles in its attempt to grow and expand. So we're just looking for a T if you believe that's a true statement, or a false if you don't believe that's a true statement. So we get some T's here, we get some T's. Give you a couple more seconds, and then we'll go. We got 4 questions we're going to ask. So, and they're all true and false. All true and false. We got a couple T's. Number two, Mr. Roundtree put a T. How you experience life is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by how you respond to what happens to you. Parents said yes, or T. Let me read that again. Number 2, how you experience life is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by how you respond to what happens to you. Char leading it out. Tamika put a T. I think that's Tamika's first T. So I guess we should have said T1, T2, T3, T4, or F1, F2, F3, F4. Read that one again. How you experience life is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by how you respond to what happens to you. So far, we're getting a lot of T's. Number 3, life does not cease from challenging you, and that does not change after you awaken spiritually. Number 3, life does not cease from challenging you, and that doesn't change after you awaken spiritually. That's Stephanie put number 2, T. I'm going to read that again. Life does not cease from challenging you, and that does not change after you awaken spiritually. Mr. Roundtree said true and false. Char said false. Oh, we get some falses here. Dad and parents said true. All right. The last one. The fruit of every good thing in life begins with a challenge. The fruit of every good thing in life begins with a challenge. Mr. Roundtree said false on that one. Char said false. I wish we had that little song. What's that? Yeah, that song. The jingle. Yeah. We got an F. We got some falses here. Okay. So this is kind of like I guess it depends on how you see it, right? So that's what Tamika said. So the reason why this is so important, because then it kind of puts the ease versus hardship into perspective. So all I'm saying, hey, Mother Brenda, how you doing? So all I'm doing is I'm going to say this, and the good thing in this is that I think I missed a question. Let me read it one more time. We got a little time. The last question is, the fruit of every good thing in life begins with a challenge.
Is it a direct challenge or indirect challenge? That's what I need to know.
You pick what you want to. My wife's such a detailed person. Is that an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/16 of an inch? Or is that a 32nds of an inch? I need to know this before I make my decision. The fruit of every good thing in life begins with a challenge. So I want to share this because I'm coming from the perspective that the answer to these are true. Every single question. So Mother Brenda said, yes, she is. You know it. You know it better than all of us. So the first question was, every human suffers and every life form suffers because life is hard, challenging, and risky. Every life form encounters obstacles in its attempt to grow and expand. True. I believe that's true. And I don't know if you guys remember there's a commercial where this one animal is eating this other animal. And while that animal is eating this one animal, another animal eats that. And then while that animal is eating that, another animal comes and eats them. and it's like a chain effect. Next thing you know, this big eagle comes and eat everybody. So life is hard, right? Even as humans, I mean, think about it. There's all kind of things. We can go on forever and talk about things that are happening that's hard. So, it's funny, we all agreed, right? Number two, how you experience your life is not determined by what happens to you. It is determined by how you respond to what happens to you. And I love this, and I've shared this before. I believe this is true. I believe this is true. There's a meme, and it depicts this so well. I had to use it again. But there's a guy sitting next to his brother, and one is successful and one is like just broke, disgusted, bitter, upset. And they asked the one that was disgusted, bitter, and upset, why are you in this situation? And he said, because my father was alcoholic. And then they go to the one that's successful and said, why are you in this situation? He said, because my father was an alcoholic. Both of them had the challenge. Both of them responded differently. I love that picture. I wish I have. I need to go Google it and see if I can find it. The third one. So I believe that's true. Life does not cease from challenging you, and that does not change after you awaken spiritually. That is so true. That is so true. So I don't care what religion you're in. Just because you got saved or you believed in Buddha or you got Muhammad on your side, life still challenges you. There's nobody, because if that was the case, everybody would join that religion. The challenges keep coming. And then I don't know about Muhammad as much, and I don't know about Buddha as much, but I know a little bit about the Bible. And there's a whole bunch of challenges for people that believed. So I know that for sure. So that one I believe is true. Life does not cease from challenging you. And just because you get saved or you awaken spiritually, that doesn't change anything. The last one, the fruit of every good in life begins with a challenge. I believe this is true. And the reason I say this is because I have a hard time thinking about anything that you respect, honor, or you sit there and say, man, that was marvelous. And it didn't start with a challenge. A baby being born, a kid getting into the NBA or the NFL, or a child doing good in school, or getting a bicycle and learning how to ride a bike. Or, I mean, anything that is what we would call good tends to start off with a challenge. Even if you say, hey, I was so happy when I learned how to drive. I remember that when I turned 16, my parents took me, got my license. I never could skip school. But that day, my mom let me skip school so I can get my license. But there was a challenge involved, right?
What about the fruit of someone else's labor that may have made the situation easier for you? So it may
we didn't say easier,
but it may be indirect, right? So it's directly maybe like to your parents. They put in all this hard work and effort to make sure that your life is easier, right? But they put in the hard work so that you don't have to. So there could be like that, is this why was it directly or indirectly?
So I don't know if you can hear my wife in there in the background, but basically she was saying, what if somebody else put in the work for you to make your life easier? So that's kind of what we're talking about today, ease versus hardship. So the comment is that the fruit of every good thing in life begins with a challenge. No matter how easy somebody makes it, you still got to walk it. I mean, you still got to, like we can use a license, you still got to learn how to drive. You can't, the mama can't have the baby for you. You still got to have some kind of mindset of how to navigate yourself through life. The people that don't answer that challenge are some of the people that are really messed up out there, that are rich and have these messed up beliefs. Either way, a person has to deal with, if they're going to be successful, if they're going to grow and they're going to develop, they have to deal with the challenge. So, and this, of course, this is subjective, right? But I'm going to tell you right now, I believe all these are true. So why is it important that you believe what you believe? Because if you don't, you can be a part of that group that believes that something's wrong when something bad happens to them. You have that group of people that when something bad happens in life, because they don't believe life is hard, they don't believe that there's a lot of human suffering. When something bad, they behave like, what's going on? Why is this happening to me? Or you hear people say, why God? Because they don't understand that there's every life form suffers. Everybody suffers, right? And then what happens is when you get these challenging situations, what you start to complain, you start to murmur like life is doing you wrong. when it's just life, right? So it's so important. Another question I have is this one. This will be the last question. Mother Brenda put a T down. The last question I have, and I got a couple things I want to say, but the last question I have is, what is the difference between challenge and hardship? What is the difference between challenge and hardship? This is when we play the music again. What is the difference between challenge and hardship? The quote said, easy is a greater danger to progress than hardship. What is the difference between challenge and hardship? Shar, can't believe you're not typing away. Sheltered individuals are often unable to deal with reality, right? Somewhere in there, for them to deal with reality, they had to face a challenge if they were going to learn how to deal with reality. Nobody, is going to be, they're going to have to deal with something. There's going to be challenges if they're going to produce something good. And so this right here.
So what's the difference?
The difference between challenge and hardship? I was waiting for a couple comments, but it's 7:16. We can move on. The difference between challenge and hardship to me is your attitude towards it. If you're more of a victim mentality, it's a hardship. If you're more of a creator, it's a challenge. It's really your attitude towards it. So let's just the definition of hardship: a condition that is difficult to endure. Challenge: a stimulating task or problem.
So they're different things.
They're close. I mean, I could switch them. And if I would have said to you guys, hardship means a stimulating task or problem, I could have put challenge, a condition that is difficult to endure.
Like people can be born into hardship. That's not.
So at the end of the day, what we're trying to say, and what I'm trying to say here, is that a lot of it has to do with your attitude towards it. You'll have somebody like Helen Keller who was born blind. She was born blind, and she'll tell people that the worst thing you can do is be a person that can see that can't see. Because she didn't look at her situation as a hardship. She was looking at it as a challenge. It's really about your attitude towards it. You got people that's coming from other countries that are enduring all kind of problems. And they look at things, they don't lean on it as a hardship. They look at it as a challenge. People that tend to look at things as a hardship tend to be more of a victim mentality. That's all I'm saying. So the difference between challenge and a hardship is really your attitude towards it. So what am I saying? Overall, 7:18, I'm saying beware of ease. Beware of ease. Ease can make you lazy, cocky, selfish, have unrealistic expectations, operate way below your potential. That's what ease can do for you. And we have to be, especially where we are in America, we got to beware of ease. We got to beware of ease, right? Well, dang, we're listening to an old video. Sorry about that. Hey, Ed, it's good to see you. So I would start all over again, Ed, but I can't. All right. But so what I'm saying is beware of ease, because ease, and it's funny because they've done studies, right? They've done studies and they say, you know what? First generation millionaires, for some reason, the overwhelming majority of millionaires, the money never makes it to the third generation. So they're like, man, why don't this money ever make it to the third generation? Because the parents are making it easy for the kid. The parent, this is what they decided was the reason, because the parents are trying to create an environment that is easy for the kid, and the kid spends the money. So the second generation is easy, right? The third generation doesn't even know how to produce at that level because the second generation was too busy enjoying the productivity of the first generation. Ease is a danger to progress. Ease. So we got to beware of ease. I love the movie 300. I don't know if you guys remember that. It came back a long time ago. Shark, you ever see 300? So 300, and I was supposed to do my research so I can get all the names right, because I don't remember what group was called what. But the good guys, the 300s, they knew that life was hard. They knew that life was challenging. They knew life was risky. So when the boys got to a certain age, they knew that they had to put them out and make them warriors. So what they did was they would test the boys. They would put them in dangerous situations. And of course, it's extreme, y'all. I'm not saying feed your kids to the lions. I'm not saying that. But they put them in dangerous situations to see if they could make it. And that was like their rites of passage. And if they came back, everything was good. And they were put in with the military and started learning how to fight. So that's how the 300 movie started. But they understood that life ain't easy. And their mentality was completely different. So what is the solution then? If I'm saying that life is hard, life is challenging, life is risky, ease is a danger to progress, what am I saying the solution is? The solution is to create a challenging culture. I don't care if you're a supervisor. I don't care if you're a parent. If you want your people to grow, you have to challenge them. You have to create a challenging culture. I am very thankful for this. Even though I be stressed out sometimes, I'm in a very challenging culture. And I think as a leader, my weakness is that I don't challenge my guys as much as I should. And it hurts them. I need to challenge them better. I need to challenge them more. I need to be more consistent with that. So for me, happens to the best of us. So for me, the solution is create a challenging culture. You said, well, Curtis, how do you do that? I'm glad you asked. I got that down here too. It's 7:22. I got Shawn to raise her eyebrows. She raised the eyebrows on that one. The first one is to share stories and ask questions. That's the first step, right? If you want to create a challenging culture, whether it be in your home or be at your job, you got to share stories and ask questions. I love sharing this story with guys at work. I tell them, especially the guys that are struggling financially, and then they think the sky's falling. I tell them how I knew when I was a certain age that if I don't change my behavior, that life was going to be really, really rough. Because it was rough at the time. I was 23 years old. I had 3 kids. I had a sister-in-law I was taking care of, and I was in an unhappy marriage. So I was like, man, this can be really bad. And I realized that if I was going to change anything, it had to be within me, right? And all I remember was my dad saying, you need to read. He'd been saying this ever since I feel like I was 3 or something. You need to read. You need to read. I never liked reading. He said, you need to read. You need to read. You need to read. You need to read. So when I got into a position where all hell broke loose and my back was against the wall and I felt like life was about to be over, the only thing that I remembered was that I need to read. So the problem was that I had 3 kids. I had a sister-in-law I was taking care of. I was in an unhappy marriage, and I was the only one working. So the question was, when you're already on government assistance, where do you get the money from? Your dad did you a huge favor. Definitely. Where do you get the money from? We looked around at our budget, and the only place we can take money from was the diapers. We said, what are you going to do? Have the kids running around butt naked? No, we bought cloth diapers. And the money we saved, I started buying my first books. And now I'm proud to say I probably got about 600 or 700 books. Now, I ain't read them all, but I got them. But life changed. And when I started thinking different, I started acting different. And then outcomes started changing. My surroundings started changing. So share stories and ask questions. So then I asked the question. I said, man, what can you do? I asked that guy. I said, what do you think you can do to sacrifice and put yourself in a situation where you can really grow? But I always share stories and I ask questions. Number 2, teach and expect an extreme ownership mentality. He didn't say it would be easy day or night, right? Right? Teach and expect an extreme ownership mentality. Man, I could tell you stories and stories and stories and stories about people who have showed ownership mentality and how they got promoted, how they went to the next level, how they moved up fast because we're just looking for a certain mentality. It says, Ann said, you were amazing. We used cloth diapers. Pampers weren't invented until a bit later. Man, I didn't know how to tie them cloth diapers, man. I got some sad stories to tell about experiences with cloth diapers. But anyway, teach and expect an extreme ownership mentality. This is why I'm big on the room. I'm big on the room being clean. So if you're watching over a kid, I'm big on the shop being clean if I'm over a group of people. Because That's where it starts. This has been given to you. You're overseeing it. And what do you do with what you're given? Right? What do you do with what you're given? You know, everybody's nice and good until you give them responsibilities. And then once you give them responsibilities, you get to really see what they're about. And then they get the challenges of having to keep it clean when they don't want to clean it. Almost like the challenges of us having to go to work when we don't want to go to work. The closest you can get to challenging is to teach and expect an extreme ownership mentality. Why? Because it's going to make them stronger for when they get out there and they handle those challenges in life. Right? Number 3, monitor meaningless activities. Man, I can go on forever with this at the job, but I'm going to tell you, I can go on forever with this in the house. Monitor meaningless activities. What's that? I can't remember the saying, but basically every action is going to get a reaction, right? What you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So if you don't put nothing in, you don't get nothing out. If you play a lot, you're not going to reap anything. So monitor meaningless activities. 726, the last one is reward, reward, and reward. And I put that 3 times just because reward in your communication. So when you're asking those questions and they seem like they get it, then reward them. Say, hey, man, that's what I'm talking about. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I love to ask Kai questions. I ask him questions. I know he loves sports. So I think I shared this with y'all before, but I asked him, I said, who is the richest black man? I asked him this. I said, who's the richest black man in America? And he said, Kanye West. I said, okay. I said, he's not the richest black man in America. He said, I think he said, what did he say next? I think he said LeBron James. I said, So that's when I was able to chime in. I said, usually the richest person is not an athlete or a singer. Usually that's just not who it is. So then we talked about this guy named Robert F. Smith. And we had that conversation. But I saw his brain moving, and I love the fact that he was thinking, because at the end of the day, those were some good options for a 12-year-old to say, right? Stephanie said Robert Smith. And then reward in your actions. This is a big one here. I love to reward Ty, and Char's the same way, when he does stuff that is team-oriented. When he does stuff that's team-oriented, it shows that he's a team player. I love to reward that way. The next thing is reward over the top. So I say reward, 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 because you're going to reward in communication, you're going to reward in actions, and you're going to reward over the top. And what I mean by over the top is most of our rewarding is not attached to this. And I think it's a weakness. And when I say this, I'm talking about most of our rewarding is not attached to things that are really going to help us. When you think about it, what is the best things you can think of that you got in life? A lot of times it was a Christmas gift or maybe a car when you got a license, but it wasn't attached to a mentality. And I think that when we start rewarding based on a mentality, then we're going to see change, because then the person gets it. So what I mean by that is I'm talking about the things where you sit there and say, you know what? You reward based on a book report, or reward based on them exercising the right habits as far as cleaning a room, or the guys are doing whatever in the shop and they're doing it without you having to do it. They're self-directed, right? The reward over the top, and do something over the top great, so that they can attach that reward to a behavior that is a mentality that will help them get past a lot of challenges in life. So I hope that makes sense. So the how, you share stories and ask questions. You teach and expect an extreme ownership mentality. You monitor meaningless activities, and you reward, reward, reward. And that is how you create a challenging culture, because ease is a danger to progress, more of a danger to progress than hardship. And the only difference between hardship and challenge is really the way you look at it. So at the end of the day, 7:30, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I like the fact that we asked you some questions and you guys chimed in to help. Thank you. It's hard for me because I'm impatient. So I'm like, okay, come on, say something, but everybody chimed in. I really appreciate it. 7:30. Remember what we always say. Oh, shout out to Greg Popovich, highest paying NBA coach. I just wanted to make sure I said that. Awesome coach. My second favorite coach. I think he got the second best winning percentage. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Roundtree. Thank you, Dad. So at the end of the day, be intentional, focus on growth, and elevate now. What's up, Jay Michael? You see him on there? What's up, Jay Michael? All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. Thank you.